Welcome back to the third part of Morning Break. Now it's time to introduce our two new features of the show. The first feature is the Nutrition Kitchen and the second is a mother's advice.
Okay, so let's first take a look at what Sister Masuma, who's a nutritionist, has for us this week.
Assalamu alaikum, I'm Masuma. Welcome to the Nutrition Kitchen on Morning Break. Today we're going to be talking about depression. Now, 1 in 4 people may suffer from depression at some point in their lives, and this can be triggered by a life event or a chemical imbalance in the brain. The foods we eat have a powerful impact on the way we feel after we eat it, and high quality nutrition is the best defense against depression. So when you're depressed or feeling low, you need to be eating foods which release serotonin in the brain. Now, serotonin is a messenger chemical. Messenger chemicals in the brain basically activate feelings, stimulate thoughts, and trigger memories. So when we think of serotonin, think of peacefulness, relaxation, optimism. Low levels of serotonin in the brain, symptoms that you need to look out for are cravings, lack of sleeplessness, and lack of concentration. So rather than reach for that double chocolate chip ice cream when you're feeling a bit low, I'm going to teach you how to make 2 smoothies which are fantastic for your health, will lift your mood and taste great. So first of all, what we're going to do, we're going to use a recipe for the smoothie which you're likely to have these fruits at home. So the first one is the good old banana. The first fruit found by man, and it's full of B vitamins, it's good for anemia, and it's mentioned in the Quran as one of the fruits of paradise. So take your blender, everyone has a blender, just peel it out and put it into your thing. So if I had some chopped ones here already. So chop it up into small pieces or however you like chopping. Take your blender, everyone has a blender, and just throw it in. I like recipes that you just throw things into the blender. Next is apples. Now apples the apple pectins clean the bloodstream, so it's really good for balancing hormones. It's what you need when you're feeling a bit low. Now what I've done is I've actually juiced it using a juicer. Now if you check out that glass, you can see how natural it looks compared to shop-bought apple juice. Okay, and that will give it'll give it more liquid in the blender so it blends well. So if you take that juice and just pour it in. Now it depends on how much you want to make. So usually it's 1 banana, 1 apple, 2 bananas, 2 apples, like that. So we take the blender. Now if you want to, you can use cream in this, but if you're watching your weight, then stay away from the cream. Okay? So also, which is a very good brain food, is walnuts. Walnuts are an antidepressant, good for the brain, omega-3. Now you can put it in or you can put it on top. I tend to like putting it on top as a garnish, but you can do what you feel is best. And then you just blitz it. So blitz it until it's a nice consistency. And one I've done earlier to show you is this. And you can garnish it with a bit of apples and it tastes divine. Okay, if you want to be a little bit more adventurous with the fruits you use, this next smoothie is great for summer. So we're using mango. Mango, really good for you, got vitamin E in it. It's got a stress relieving property in it as well. So it takes a while, it's a bit messy to cut up, peel and chop it into small pieces like this. Also pineapple. Pineapple is like your turbocharger for the day, so it will really give you that boost. It's got a lot of vitamin C. And so chop it up into small pieces like this, okay? And orange, all right? Get an orange. I've got one here. Peel it, and it's very important that you try and keep the white stuff on it because people tend not to, to peel it off. But that actually is an antioxidant, and it actually helps to lose weight, right? So what you want to do is I'll cut the oranges in half. And I'll just swap over the blender. Use a nice fresh one. Okay. And then we'll just open that. And basically, again, it's just throwing everything into the blender. If you have a juicer, use a juicer. It will give you a better consistency. This will be a little bit thick, but, it doesn't matter. It still has the same effect. So stuff that in. And your oranges as well, you can just cut it in half. You can cut it smaller if you want. And all you have to do is, again, just press the button and blitz it. Fantastic, that looks really yummy. And then, I've got one earlier for you. And I've decorated it with a little pineapple. And there you go. And it tastes divine. And it's great in this hot weather as well. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that depression-busting smoothie. Try it at home and tell me what you think. If you want to contact me directly, email me on morningbreak@ahlulbayt.tv. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Well, that was useful. Have you ever thought of making a fresh fruit smoothie at home?
I haven't. I have to say, like Masuma mentioned, I'm definitely one of those people who, if I'm feeling a bit low, I'll just think, okay, where's the closest junk food thing that I've got in the house? And I'll, not necessarily chocolate, but, you know, crisps, etc., which really don't help at all, and, you know, they aren't good for you either. So I really like the way that Masuma actually suggested using you know, fruit that we would have lying around. I think most people do have things like bananas, etc. Mangoes perhaps not, but it's a nice, quite exotic touch to it, and that would, you know, kind of brighten up the drink as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And mangoes also are like, I think they're coming in now this season, aren't they? In summer, maybe inshallah we'll see some. So actually it might be a good idea for maybe our viewers to actually get hold of some mangoes, and, you know, why not? Because a lot of people say that, oh, you shouldn't have mangoes because they're fattening and they cause spots, etc., etc. But actually, they actually lift you up, and I think that's very important. I think that's maybe I'll give some of those smoothies a try. What about you?
Well, I think being Pakistani, mangoes seem to feature heavily in our culture, and people always find it shocking that I don't really eat mangoes that much. But I think if it was for a smoothie, I would actually go out and buy them. And I actually personally never knew that walnuts, for example, had that kind of antidepressant quality. I love walnuts, and, you know, often people say, oh, don't have nuts because the nuts, apparently they are quite hot for your blood. You know, foods have that hot effect, or some have cold effects, and nuts are supposed to be quite hot. So people suggest not eating that many. But I like the idea of just sprinkling some walnuts in a smoothie. I don't think I've ever tried something like that.
No, yeah, no, neither have I. And I didn't know that, you know, walnuts were like act as an antidepressant. So that's definitely something interesting. Do you tend to like buy lots of smoothies anyway? You know, when you're going out and about?
To be honest, not really. I have recently started buying one just because I really like the taste of it. I'm not one of those people that would go out of my way to have smoothies. But I do have to say that I think there's been like a massive trend in smoothies being made. For example, you know, loads of different brands out there that are making smoothies that are supposedly just 100% fresh fruit. And I think that was probably part of the boost of, or people trying to make money out of the whole eat 5 fruit and vegetables a day. And one easy way of doing that is just by blending loads of things together, right? Because a lot of people don't necessarily get a chance to eat 5 a day. And so even when you go into coffee shops, there seems to be a big emphasis on smoothies and even things like frappuccinos now. I do like that kind of stuff. So I think this is definitely something that, you know, you could perhaps make at home and take into work even.
That's so true, yeah, and then it will encourage us to be a lot more healthier and hopefully happier in a more natural way, rather than reaching out for that chocolate bar and, you know, getting artificially, supposedly happier.
Absolutely, inshallah we can actually do that. Okay, so now it's time for our top tips feature. So Fatima, what do you have for us this week?
Well, this week I have picked out that if by reciting, obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has 99 names, and they can all help us in very, you know, diverse and different ways, alhamdulillah. And I've got here that if you want to get rid of fear, then if you recite his name Ya Hafizu 989 times, then it gets rid of fear. And if you read it regularly, then you won't feel fear, you won't feel frightened by anything, and it empowers you. So I think that's a very nice top tip, because I think a lot of people, you know, sometimes it's just, you know, some people just don't even like sitting in a dark room, you know. So that sort of thing can really, really help you boost your levels.
Absolutely, and I think even if you have a fear of, if you're going to look into it in a more deeper sense, you know, sometimes you have I think everyone knows themselves, don't they? Or I would hope that people are working towards knowing themselves. And sometimes you have a fear of yourself. You know, for example, you might know that your weakness is, for example, being lazy with salah. And so then you fear that kind of side of you and you want to really improve on it. Maybe you could even use this for that, you know. I'm sure Allah knows your intention. So, and actually reading it 989 times to really kind of keep emphasizing that name in your mind, and inshallah have a really good effect. But I was going to say, do you actually think, you know, for example, if you say to someone, oh, you should read that 989 times, do you think that's something that most people would find manageable, or is this one of those things that you should read one off when you're actually fearing something rather than on a daily basis?
I think, if somebody is quite fearful of things, then maybe start doing off whenever they can. And then if they see it benefits them, and then maybe they don't have to do it anymore. But I think just reciting any Allah's names is beneficial. So I think if you can try and incorporate it into your weekly life, then why not? And also, a lot of people say, well, that's almost 1,000 times. It's a lot. But if you think about it, on the day of Ashura, you recite Allah's supplications 1,000 times, and just like on Laylatul Qadr, you do find the time to recite. So like that, I think at the end of the day, if people are able to, and it's not just about sitting down and reciting. You could be on the train reciting. You could be in the car reciting. You could be, at home cooking and reciting. It doesn't, and on an average, you can just count on your fingers, and you can tell whether you've reached 989 times. So I think if you think about it in a really kind of on a practical sense, you can actually do it. It's just whether you're committed to do it or not.
I found that really useful. And I really hope you found it useful too. But now it's time to go to see what Sakina has to say to us, who's a mother of two, on our new part of the show, which is A Mother's Advice.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Sakina, and welcome to A Mother's Advice on Morning Break, where we will be discussing the challenges and issues facing women and mothers in our society today, who are striving to raise their children in the best way possible and in the path of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Today's topic of discussion is the issue of coping with miscarriage and the loss of a child. And here with me to discuss this is Sister Fatima. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So sister, the issue of miscarriage and the loss of a child is one that is not often discussed within our communities, and yet it is a devastating experience for any mother to go through. And it is quite a common occurrence, as 1 in 4 pregnancies will actually end in a miscarriage. So why do you think this is a subject that is not often talked about within our community and is often avoided?
I definitely agree with you that this is a subject that is avoided. It is definitely an issue that we have to raise because, like you said, your statistics of 1 in 5 pregnancies end in miscarriage and 5% of pregnancies end in stillbirth or early neonatal death.
Definitely, that's surprisingly common.
Yeah, so it does happen quite often, and yet somehow as a community we're unsure about how to deal with it. I mean, often we just kind of let the mother just deal with it themselves, and we want to avoid the situation.
Yes, I think that will leave the mother feeling quite isolated as well.
Definitely. I think maybe, in my personal opinion, one of the reasons why we avoid this issue may be the fact that the baby that has just died is someone that nobody met, so someone that nobody knew. Unlike a death in the family, where people can share their memories of that person with the bereaved and console them that way.
Yes,
so it does make a difference that obviously that it's a baby that died, but still, like you said, it does make it very difficult for the mother, because not only does she have to cope with the loss and the devastating experience, but then she has to also cope with the fact that community members and family members and people as part of her friend circle, they're kind of avoiding talking to her, which makes her feel more hurt and upset on top of whatever she's going through already.
Definitely, and for a mother who has just recently experienced such a devastating loss, whether it is an early miscarriage or whether it is, God forbid, a stillbirth, which occurs much later on, what would your advice be as to how she could even start to deal with such a tragic loss?
Well, the first thing that many mothers think when they first go through such a loss, their first response is to ask themselves, why me? And this is a very un-Islamic response. I mean, it's due to the fact that we're surrounded by Western thinking, we're in a Western environment, and this is a typical Western response. The response of saying, why me, it's based on the fact that we're, in the Western world, the pursuit of happiness and the instant satisfaction of desires and wishes is the main purpose of life. Whereas in Islam, it's a completely different situation. In Islam, we believe that this world is full of trouble, is full of difficulties and times of distress. And so the Islamic response shouldn't be why me, but try me, because I have Allah by my side.
Yes, it's a completely different way of thinking.
Completely, yes.
But often when a person goes through such a devastating loss, I mean, they start to lose a little bit of faith and start to despair in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So are there any Islamic teachings or thoughts that such a person could draw upon in this difficult time?
Absolutely. In fact, the answer to the question, why me, is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran, in Surah Al-Ankabut, which is the 29th surah, ayat number 2, where He says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do men think that they will be left alone on saying we believe and they will not be tested? So Allah is telling us that He is going to test us. He is going to try us. And we should use this opportunity to get closer to Allah. Because when we are tested in this world, and when we successfully pass those tests, then we elevate our status in the hereafter, and inshallah we will attain everlasting happiness in the hereafter.
That's true, and I think a mother can take great comfort from those words, definitely. And also, Islam is a total way of life and not only a religion, and it has an answer to everything in every situation. So, are there any examples from the history of Islam or from the lives of our Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam for such situations, including the tragic loss of a child?
Absolutely, there are very many examples. The main example that we have is obviously Our Lady of Light, Lady Fatima az-Zahra. Her example is one that we're all aware of. She was 6 months pregnant with baby Muhsin when the enemies of Islam brutally set fire to the door of her house and pushed her between the door and the wall, so much so that she was injured really severely, and baby Muhsin died instantly.
Definitely, and I think that is a sacrifice, that she actually made, and it was for the sake of Islam, and it was for, keeping Islam alive for us today. Absolutely. And I think mothers who are going through similar circumstances in that, they've just lost a child, they can take great comfort from the fact that, whatever they are going through is only a fraction of what our Ahlul Bayt actually went through.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, a woman who suffers a miscarriage or a stillbirth, they've suffered it because it's the will of Allah. Whereas with Lady Fatima, she lost her unborn child because of the actions of the enemies of Islam.
Definitely. And also you mentioned before that people generally don't know how to actually speak to a woman who's been through such a tragic loss. So what would your advice be as to how people from the community can actually approach such a mother in such a situation?
The person who's been through such a situation obviously is feeling very anxious. The woman's feeling very anxious. She's feeling grief, she's feeling pain, she's feeling sorrow. So the worst thing community members and friends and family can do is ignore her or actually talk to her but not acknowledge what she's going through at all. In fact, our Imam have given us a lot of advice and there are a lot of ahadith to encourage us to give condolences to people who have been through such situations. One of the hadith of the Holy Prophet says, whoever condoles with a grief-stricken person receives the same reward as him. So the mother who has just been through the experience of losing her child, whatever reward she has received for being through that experience, if you sit down with her and give her comfort, you get the same reward.
Definitely, that's really amazing. And also, for a mother who's been through such a tragic loss, no matter how strong she is, because of the abundant love that Allah has placed in her heart for her child, she'll be experiencing a great deal of sorrow and grief in the long term. So, what would your advice be on how she could cope with this tragic loss in the long term?
Well, in the long term, one of the most practical things to do is to keep busy. The worst thing you can do is actually not do anything and kind of sit down and feel depressed and, feel, my God, the world has fallen around me. Because an idle mind is a devil's workshop. We all know that. And shaitan is waiting for an opportunity to come to vulnerable people and turn them away from Islam. I mean, the Holy Prophet has said that he fears for his ummah about 3 things, and one of those 3 things is being misled by trials and ordeals. So when we are going through such an experience, if we kind of don't keep busy, if we don't try to strengthen that bond with Allah, then shaitan will succeed and turn us away from the path of Islam.
Definitely. And I think, we've both, as mothers, faced a similar situation. And in that situation, I think the best thing to do is turn to Allah and just accept that Allah's will is the best thing for us at the time. and just turn to him in du'as and prayers, and I think that always helps.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like, we always, when you go through such an experience, you want someone to talk to. And who better is there to talk to than our Creator?
Definitely.
You know, you can talk to anybody else, but there is nobody who's going to give you the kind of tranquility in your heart than our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah does mention in the Holy Quran, in Surah Ra'd, saying that the only way that hearts will achieve tranquility is through His dhikr. So we want to achieve that tranquility, and no worldly solutions are going to help us with that. The only thing that will help us with that is actually the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Thank you very much for all your advice today. Well, that's it from me at A Mother's Advice on Morning Break. Please tune in next week, where I'll be having a discussion with another mother on another important issue. If you have any questions, please email me at morningbreak@ahlbayt.tv. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wow, I found that really interesting, and I really hope and pray that no one has to actually go through that, but unfortunately people do, so I think it's a really important issue to cover.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And, you know, so many families do get affected by it, and sometimes we don't fully understand the circumstances around these things. Well, right now it's time to go for another break, but do join us for our fourth segment, where we will be seeing what Sister Sidra Zaidi has to say, as well as seeing another part of Humaira's Ziara video journal.
Low. Now what I've done is I've actually juiced it using a juicer. Now if you check out that glass, you can see how natural it looks compared to shop bought apple juice. Okay, so, and that will give it'll give it more liquid in the blender, so it blends well. So if you take that juice and just pour it in. Now it depends on how much you want to make. So usually it's 1 banana, 1 apple, 2 bananas, 2 apples, like that. So we take the blender. Now if you want to, you can use cream in this, but if you're watching your weight, then stay away from the cream. Okay. So also, which is very good brain food, is walnuts. Walnuts are an antidepressant, good for the brain, omega-3. Now you can put it in, or you can put it on top.
Welcome back to the third part of Morning Break. Now it's time to introduce our 2 new features of the show. The first feature is the Nutrition Kitchen, and the second is A Mother's Advice.
Okay, so let's first take a look at what Sister Masuma, who's a nutritionist, has for us this week.
Assalamu alaikum, I'm Masuma. Welcome to the Nutrition Kitchen on Morning Break. Today we're going to be talking about depression. Now 1 in 4 people may suffer from depression at some point in their lives, and this can be triggered by a life event or a chemical imbalance in the brain. The foods we eat have a powerful impact on the way we feel after we eat it, and high quality nutrition is the best defense against depression. So when you're depressed or feeling low, you need to be eating foods which release serotonin in the brain. Now, serotonin is a messenger chemical. Messenger chemicals in the brain basically activate feelings, stimulate thoughts, and trigger memories. So when we think of serotonin, think of peacefulness, relaxation, optimism. Low levels of serotonin in the brain, symptoms that you need to look out for are cravings, lack of sleeplessness, and lack of concentration. So rather than reach for that double chocolate chip ice cream when you're feeling a bit low, I'm going to teach you how to make 2 smoothies which are fantastic for your health, will lift your mood, and taste great. So first of all, we're going to like putting it on top as a garnish, but you can do what you feel is best. And then you just blitz it. So blitz it until it's a nice consistency. And one I've done earlier to show you is this. And you can garnish it with a bit of apples, and it tastes divine. Okay, if you want to be a little bit more adventurous with the fruits you use, this next smoothie is great for summer. So we're using mango. Mango, really good for you, got vitamin E in it. It's got a stress relieving property in it as well. So it takes a while, it's a bit messy to cut up, peel, and chop it into small pieces like this. Also pineapple. Pineapple is like your turbocharger for the day, so it will really give you that boost. It's got a lot of vitamin C. And so chop it up into small pieces. Like we're going to do, we're going to use a recipe for the smoothie, which you're likely to have these fruits at home. So the first one is the good old banana, the first fruit found by man, and it's full of B vitamins. It's good for anemia, and it's mentioned in the Quran as one of the fruits of paradise. So take your blender. Everyone has a blender. Just peel it out. And put it into your thing. So if I had some chopped ones here already. So chop it up into small pieces, or however you like chopping. Take your blender. Everyone has a blender, and just throw it in. I like recipes that you just throw things into the blender. Next is apples. Now the apple pectins clean the bloodstream, so it's really good for balancing hormones. It's what you need when you're feeling